What's up, gamers? I'm your host Cobra, and this is the Freeroll. Today, we're taking a look at the Star Atlas FTX debacle. Now, at this point, I think just about everybody clicking on this video knows what happened with FTX, or at least has heard some of the news. We're not going to break that down any further here on this channel, but rather we're going to take a specific look at the impact that the FTX collapse is going to have on a project we've been covering here on the Freeroll called Star Atlas. Now, Star Atlas was a really exciting project that we have been following for quite a while. Unfortunately, they lost a significant portion of their funds in the FTX collapse, and they are now in dire straits to keep the project afloat. So today we are going to take a quick look at specifically what happened to Star Atlas, at least what we know so far. Then we're going to take a look at how the team is planning to respond and get the project back on track. Then I'll break down my plan of action, some of the steps I have already taken and plan to take in the future. Okay, I'm going to try to keep this brief, but let's take a look at what we know happened. The CEO of Star Atlas, Michael Wagner, put out a statement shortly after losing all of this money. And in that statement, he explains that they were using FTX to move crypto from their treasury to their bank accounts so that they can cover things like operating expenses and payroll. All totally normal use cases for a centralized exchange like FTX used to be. However, they were doing a third thing with FTX that caused the real problem. They were using treasury funds on FTX to generate what they considered low-risk yield. Well, as we now see, that wasn't so low risk because all of that money is gone. Essentially, they used anywhere from 50 to 65% of the treasury funds. I've seen a handful of different numbers floating out there, but it seems to be in that range, to stake and earn interest on FTX. Because they were doing that and FTX has now collapsed, all of that money is gone. They may be able to recover some of it in bankruptcy proceedings, but the reality is that takes quite a bit of time, and in this space, it's entirely possible that the project is completely gone before they even get to that stage. And there's no guarantees that that's going to result in recovering any funds at all, because as we dig into this, it keeps looking worse and worse for FTX. But the real problem here is that, number one, they made what I consider to be a real beginner's mistake. Leaving funding on a centralized exchange is just a mistake. Yes, there's an opportunity to earn over there. However, you have to be willing to lose it because, as we have seen, especially this year, the institutions in the crypto space are not yet well regulated enough that we can have any sort of real trust behind them. We've seen safe investment opportunities completely collapse in the span of days, more than once this year. So that should be a lesson to everybody. It is also Crypto 101 that if you don't control the keys, you don't own the tokens. And when you have anything sitting on a centralized exchange, you have no control over that. So when something like this happens, your funds are gone. And in my opinion, having such a significant portion of the treasury in a single spot that the team had no control over is just wildly irresponsible. I'm sure that looking back, Michael is shaking his head at how stupid this was. It is normal practice to spread your assets out so that you don't have a single point of failure that is so catastrophic that it could sink your project. But that is what Star Atlas did, and that is what has happened. So unfortunately, they are in a really tough spot. It appears to me that they have at most something like 6 months of runway from the project's cash position standpoint today. That means that if they don't find a way to raise significant funding in the next few months, we could see a major project like Star Atlas actually reach a point of failure much quicker than I thought was even possible. Even if we thought that this project was ultimately going to fail, and it always had a high chance of failure, it is still shocking to see that we might be at that point just a couple of years in. So the plan to save the project is twofold. Number one, they are pursuing outside investments. This means going out to things like VCs and angel investors, potentially some DAOs in this space, and seeing if they're interested in making an investment at a significant discount. So far, I have not seen that they have been able to secure any of those things, but that's something that's going to take some time, and this just happened a couple of weeks ago. The second option they have already put into place, and that is to sell more stuff to the community and players that have already generated so much money for them. And this is what they're currently trying right now. So I'm a little bit shocked at some of the numbers we're talking about here, but essentially they have put 3 Titan class ships on sale. And they are re-releasing 1 ship from each different size category at a significant discount to help raise additional funds. So let's talk about the Titan ships first. Those were originally intended to be sold for $5 million each, which is bonkers right on its face, but they have been using a really aggressive evaluation for their project and their ships, and the prices have been quite high. They are now going to sell those for up to 80% off. And the way that it's working is essentially a decreasing discount. This week, week 1, when you would be taking the biggest leap of faith, you'll get 80% off, which means you can buy those for $1 million. Each week, that discount reduces by 10%. And so that means the price is going to increase. Then the other ships that they're selling are also similarly discounted. The discounts are going to decrease starting from 80% over the next couple of weeks. There are some really interesting ships on sale now, but boy, I tell you, the fact that they're offering stuff at 80% off, to me, that devalues all of the ships by something like 80%. The second part of the sale is going to kick off in a couple of weeks, and it's going to consist of a couple of different types of land sales. Now, if you've been following the Freeroll, you know that I love land sales when it comes to web3 games. It's one of my favorite types of gaming assets or NFTs. So this caught my attention, and normally would have been something that I was really excited about. However, we just don't have a lot of confidence in this project today. So it's really tough to say whether or not we want to participate in the land sale. Now, to be clear, there's going to be a couple of different types of land available. One is called a claim, and that's essentially going to be for claiming spots on planets to do mining. And then there's also going to be residential plots or claims, which is spots where you can live or set up a shop inside of a city. Both of those are really, really interesting to me, especially the mining ones. But we don't really have details on the prices yet. They have given out some details and some of the bonuses. Depending on the different level that you purchase, you're going to get some extras to go along with it, which is nice and does make it more attractive, but we haven't seen prices for the various tiers and types of NFTs that they're going to be selling just yet. So we'll take another look at that when those details do become available. However, the reality is we're going to need to see some success in terms of fundraising via the ship sales and outside investments before we're able to regain some confidence to actually buy land within Star Atlas. So if you're like the Freeroll and have purchased hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of Star Atlas ships that we at this point may no longer even get a chance to fly around in even once, then you've got some decisions to make. I'll tell you what I have done so far, and as always, this is not financial advice, just the approach that I have taken to this game. before all of this happened, I had a variety of ships. I had a handful of the extra small ships that are essentially single player rides that were very inexpensive. We paid, $20 or so for those ships generally. No big deal on those. If the project goes to zero and I lost $20 on each of those ships, that's a loss I can easily stomach. The ships that I purchased for myself to play with that were most interesting were things like the Visus Zimbabwe, which was a bounty hunter, and they were generally from the small to medium range, and ships that cost something like $500 to $1,500 each. Those have lost a ton of value, but didn't lose all of their value. So I sold off two of the ships that I liked best for about $150 each. That is a significant haircut from what I paid for those ships, which is a shame, but I have a feeling that they are going to continue to slide down, so I didn't want to take any more risk and decided to pull that cash out. Then I have co-ownership of a data runner ship that cost quite a bit more. I think we paid close to $2,000 for that originally. I co-own that with a couple of other people, and we've decided to simply hold on because that has also lost significant value, but it's a lot less work to continue to stake, and we were comfortable with keeping that one in play. So this is me essentially halfway exiting the project. I will not be putting any additional dollars back into Star Atlas until I see some real improvement. And at this point, that might also need to include a change of leadership, because this was a massive failure that really there is no excuse for. But at the very minimum, we're going to need to see those $1 million ships actually sell. Now, if Star Atlas is able to sell all three of those before the land portion of the sale opens up, then I might consider looking at some land as well. It will be a much smaller purchase than it would have been originally, but it would still be interesting to have a piece of land for this project in the off chance that it does survive and make it to some future stages. So we will be monitoring that situation. There's also the potential for an outside investment to come in and help save the project. That would help build some confidence as well. But really, I think that it was bold of them to start off with these $1 million ship sales. I think it would look really awful if they don't move all three of them, and relatively quickly. It's been several days and none have sold so far, so I don't know if that's going to happen, but that's really the next thing that I need to see be a success before I reconsider any sort of reinvestment into this project. I've said this a lot and I'll say it again. We are very, very early, which also means that these investments are very, very risky, and we are going to see a whole bunch of the projects that we participate in and make investments into ultimately fail. I will tell you, I am shocked that we are this close to that being the case for Star Atlas, because they were one of the best funded projects in the entire space. However, that is no longer the case, and the reality is that Star Atlas could be at zero sometime in 2023, which would be a real shame if it were the case. But when you are making investments into these projects, you need to consider that that is a real possibility and be willing to lose all of your funds when you do so. It's looking quite likely that we're going to lose most of our investment, if not all of it, into Star Atlas, and that is okay. It is part of taking part in these early rounds, and it is the nature of investing. With that said, I hope you enjoyed this video and that it was fun and informative. If it was, consider giving me a follow on Twitter. That's where I love to engage with the Web3 gaming community and answer all of your questions. Also, double check for me that you've hit that subscribe button below. It really helps to support the channel.